It is 9 o'clock, 9:22 on a Friday night. Does anybody know where the head of the DNC is at tonight? Or anybody else for that matter. I got my hat turned wrong side. I always do that. Good to see everybody tonight. We are grateful to have you back on a Friday night. Got the red, white, and blue on, the cowboy hat, and I got Mahgdalen Rose on the phone. What better Friday night could we have on the McFiles? Mahgdalen, good to hear from you. Good to see you tonight, dear. How are you doing? It's so good to have you. You know I love you. You're like my daughter. And, we're grateful to have you and looking forward to your little insight here at the beginning tonight. And good to have you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
I was expecting, Rose, you're going to have to up your game. You're supposed to laugh at my bad jokes. That was a little joke. And I'm going to have to train you better, youngin'. That's all I got to say. That's what I tell my kids when they just stare a hole at me when I say something corny. I'm like, you're gonna have to up your game and do better than that. And just remember who handles the allowance and purse strings, and they just still laugh. That makes them laugh harder because they know I ain't got no money. Hey, good to have you tonight. You know I'm messing with you. I do want to ask you a question. 24 hours later, after the Dem meltdown of the century. What is Mahgdalen Rose's take on last night's debate? I'm just curious.
Well, I think this debate format is the unknown gift to Donald Trump, because previously he has sort of let himself be ruled by his hatred towards Biden, but not being able to talk when it wasn't his turn, the fact that he really had to behave in a lot of ways helped him. And even his son, Don Jr., tweeted that he liked this new debate format because it made Trump have to be more disciplined. So overall, that was a massive plus. And I think that the takeaway here is, if this is what Biden could do with weeks of rest and being the one who instigated having a debate, what will he do when there's already been a debate, when he's a little bit tired? We're seeing somebody who was at their best last night. If this is his best, what does his worst look like now?
If this was his best, are we not screwed? I mean, for goodness sake, Mahgdalen. I mean, look, I have to say something. I mean, look, I'm very slow, and I tell my people, we don't make fun of his cognitive decline. It's very serious. It's dangerous that the leader of the free world is in this state. And we're all headed to an age that we all will face this same challenge. My problem is that he is the leader of the free world, making decisions that affect 350 plus million people every day. He puts 350 million people either in danger or he protects the homeland. That is part of a president's duty constitutionally to protect the nation from all enemies, foreign and domestic, which he has not done. It is in this cognitive decline that we have had an open border for the last 4 years that has allowed rapists, murderers, and everything under the sun to come in. And I've got a few thoughts on that later about why I think that's happening. But I will tell you this, that is the issue. And I think what you just said is so true, that without an audience, without there being any kind of feedback from the audience, CNN basically cut their own throat last night, because I think they were expecting this to be Trump's, his downfall, but by them tying his hands and not having any kind of mics, any kind of repercussion. But I think he did better. That's the best of the 8 years that I've seen him. He's debated Hillary 2 or 3 times. He debated Biden twice. Last time. This was his best debate ever. I mean, I've never seen him more disciplined than he was last night, and it's going to bear well. And I think the country's feeling it, especially on the left, because suicide watch hotlines have been overloaded today. I'm just saying, coming from the liberal elite centers, and I'm not making light of that, but I'm just saying, I mean, there's some panic in D.C., my friend. There's some panic in New York. There's some panic in California tonight. There's some panic all over this country. In the damn headquarters, right?
There is. And what's interesting is the commentators on CNN did this remarkable turnaround from Biden they weren't saying he would destroy Trump, but the comparison between Biden, this was the key thing throughout all liberal media, that we were going to see the difference between someone who was presidential and disciplined and studied and someone who was not. And we did see that. But Donald Trump, for the first time perhaps in his entire political career, looked professional and polished and well-studied, which was really an odd thing to see, because Trump has always been the kind of debater where he knew the basics, but he didn't get into the weeds. And that was kind of because he had someone like Chris Christie, who was his debate coach in 2016 and somewhat in 2020. That kind of debate coaching, I've done debate coaching before, it's somewhere where you lead very much emotionally. You're not leading on policy. You're not trying to win an argument. You're trying to just win. Whereas now, Trump has sort of changed that. He cares about policy. He wants to talk specifically about fact-checking fake stories about himself. One of the standout moments for me last night was seeing him discuss the fact that he did not say those comments at that cemetery. And previously, Trump would have just said wrong or this is ridiculous. But he had the data. He had the receipts. He said, no, these 19 people said that I didn't say this. This guy was a failure. I had fired him. And you could tell that Joe Biden was not prepared for that. So whoever did the debate prepping, if there really even was any debate prepping for Joe Biden, should have realized, based off who Trump's hiring and the whole ethos of the Trump campaign now, this is not the Trump of 2020.
No, it's not. What did you think of the? I know I follow the headlines, and I was looking at Breitbart last night. We're going to talk about that on the news roundup later. But there were so many outright lies, Mahgdalen, that Joe Biden gave last night. One being that he claimed that there had been no deaths in Afghanistan at the withdrawal. He claimed that the Border Patrol had endorsed him. They come out like during the debate, literally tweeting out saying we've never and never will endorse Joe Biden. There was lies about the economy. There was lies about that there was more deaths under Trump with COVID than Biden, which was a lie. Actually, it's just the opposite. And I've got something to say about that too. But there was a lot of Pinocchios last night, and it was like this morning. Look, CNN's not going to stop the debate last night and say, Joe, that's a lie, and this is a lie, and so forth. But even today, nobody corrected those lies. But I think that bothered me more than anything else about Joe Biden's performance last night. And then I had the audacity of him today, when asked why he was off on his game, he said, well, it's hard to debate a liar. Well, it's like pot calling the kettle black, isn't it? Because that's all he did last night was lie.
It is. And what was so strange is Joe Biden tried to be a tough guy. He called him a loser and a sucker and all these things. And Trump never took the bait. And that's what was so fascinating. Trump has never been able to stand down. He must always go all in. And yet every time Biden said that, Trump dismissed it. And I think the core thing here is Donald Trump completely believes that Joe Biden is incapacitated. So he's not treating him like he would have treated Hillary. Whenever Hillary said something, it was a knockdown, drag out. There was no getting away from it. But he treats Joe Biden like an elderly friend who's sort of at the end of his time and being cognitively all there. So in a strange way, Trump looked merciful last night. Trump may have hit him hard on policy. He hit him hard when he was accused of things. But knowing Donald Trump, as everyone in this country does, because Trump is now like an institution. He's been doing this since 2015. He entered politics really in 2012 with endorsing Mitt Romney. So knowing that, I think a lot of people, especially women in this country, saw Trump as very merciful last night, which can only help him with suburban white voters.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Do you think that you said, let me ask you this, why do you think that he's more merciful to Biden than he would have ever been to Hillary? Is there a reason? Has he mellowed? Is there something personal? Is there a little bit of personal animus toward Hillary?
Well, I think he knows Hillary is all there mentally. So when he goes after her, it's brutal. But I think in 2020, he thought Joe Biden was more capable, and he was. The sort of slide down to now where Joe Biden has been extreme. He looks at Joe Biden as an elderly man who, yes, is very bad for the country and has lied about him and is prosecuting him using the criminal justice system. But at the end of the day, he is not all there. So Trump is being merciful.
Let me ask you this. Let me change the subject because this is about the debate, but this is huge. There are a lot of legal hurdles that they're going to have to go through to do it. Short of Biden doing it himself, I do not see legally, and I don't see politically. If the Dems want to commit suicide, let them try to replace him on this ticket. I'm telling you, it's going to blow up in their face. I'm telling you, this is not something they want to do, but they think they do tonight. Do you think they're going to be that stupid at the convention to try to replace him? And, everything I heard today from Biden was, I'm digging in. I'll be there in September. I'm not dropping out. We had a bad debate night, but I'll be back and get him September. But Magdalene, I don't see him being any different in September. This man was in Never Neverland last night. I mean, I don't even know if he remembers the debate.
No, I think that they're going to try very hard to replace him. But here's the problem Democrats have. If you're going to replace the sitting president who's running for re-election, fine. But then you have to choose the vice president unless they are, for some reason, not capable or don't meet the credentials. You have to. You have no choice. And they doubly have no choice because she is a woman of color and she's the first female vice president. So how are they possibly going to say, we're going to replace him and everything and it's fine, and then not pick Kamala? That's not going to work with their voting base because their voting base, they have a huge amount of black women in their voting base, minorities. If they skip over Kamala Harris for Gavin Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer, the governor, they're going to look racist. They just will. So they've pushed themselves into a very bad corner now.
Do you think they're that stupid though to do it? I think they're in such panic mode that I wouldn't put nothing past these people. Honestly, I know your point is well taken, and I agree with you. And I'll tell you something else. Kamala is more unpopular in this country than Joe Biden right now.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at her favorability ratings, Magdalene, I mean, my God, Joe Biden has at least got 35% of the country with him. Kamala don't even have 15.
No, she doesn't. I think that they might be willing to do it. And the reason for that is because people who previously had been like on the fence or defended Biden and all of these things, they are now saying that we're in a bad situation. And I don't know if you saw the new Time magazine cover of Biden sort of walking out and the red backdrop. To me, this seems a bit like a coordinated media hit against Biden. Because the onslaught of rejection of him being so quick, it makes it clear that people were ready to go against him. And that's something I don't think he himself was ready. And we're seeing that the reason why he's still in this office is Jill Biden. A lot of people were asking last night, well, who's running the country? Jill Biden is running the country and his chief of staff, Zients, are running the country. They're the only two people with continued access at all hours of the day. Nobody else could do it. And I think that's why Kamala Harris is sent on a lot of busy work missions, and she might not even know how bad of a situation we're in.
Buddy, that is an excellent observation, and that's why you're Magdalene Rose, and that's why I've got you on that. I'd really not even thought about that. Because, I mean, I know the conventional wisdom by a lot of people is Obama and Susan Rice, but I think you're right. And I heard something before we came on the show tonight that part of the reason he dug in today is Jill Biden, because she wants power. She is thirsty for power over this country. And I think that deep in her heart, if they can pull this crazy upset off in November against Trump, you're right. I don't think it even matters at that point whether Joe's cognizant or not. It will be a Jill Biden country, and we'll basically have a woman running the White House, even though she won't be officially a woman, officially the candidate, correct?
Yes, and you know what's interesting is if you think about how this country is really being run on a day-to-day basis, it's being run like a middle school classroom. Nothing is really addressed. Nothing really is solved. And the way that a lot of teachers are, they give packets of work and you just do them. That is how this country is being run. No real change happens. You don't even really see great change for Democrats anymore. Remember when Biden was elected and you and I were covering it and we thought, oh, well, this will be like a revolution against conservatives. Unless you're a Donald Trump or in the Donald Trump camp, there hasn't been this sort of witch hunt that we were all anticipating. And that's because Jill Biden is running the country and she doesn't want to give up power. But she has to, because she was not elected. And this is the position we're in. She is the reason Joe Biden is still in that position. Remember, in 2015, she was disappointed that he announced in the Rose Garden that he wasn't going to run for president after Obama couldn't run for a third term. She was disappointed. She waited, and now she has pretty much the keys to the kingdom.
That's a great point, and I do remember that. And because he should have been the heir apparent in 2016. Yeah. And, it makes you wonder what would have happened had he ran against Trump then, but he elected to take a 4-year off and, come in 2020. Do you think, what do you think is the Dems' greatest remorse tonight? Do you think that there are, let me change that question. I was listening to some of the voters. Jesse Waters had his guy out there talking to some of the people on the street tonight. And it's consensus that Trump won last night. There's no doubting that. But I also found it intriguing, Magdalene, that a lot of these people that are Democrat that saw what they saw last night, they're still voting for Biden. And my question to you is, do you think this ultimately changed the landscape in any way for voters? I know that there's some independents that may have been on the fence last night that may swing to Trump, but we live in a very weird society right now, and I'm not even sure if this last night has convinced people that we've got a train wreck in D.C. right now, and if we don't stop this train wreck, we're all going to be run over by it.
Yeah, and I think what it comes down to the biggest bit of remorse is that in 2020, when they were trying to, 2019, really, when they were getting together the candidates to run against Trump, a lot of young Democrats said, we have a really good bench of people who could do this job. But the older Democrats' obsession with Joe Biden would be their Achilles heel. And that's turned out to be true. It is ridiculous that this man was even the nominee. And yet when people talked about that, it was sort of like it was not possible for him not to be the nominee for some reason. And I know in the young political world, not just conservatives, but in the young political world, no one understood why. No one could figure out what the problem was. So I think that going back to it is the bit of the remorse. And the second thing is, remember when Biden said he was going to pick a black woman or a woman of color as his vice president? There was only one woman who that was an option for the people on that stage. Yes, he could have picked somebody else, but everyone knew that he was going to pick from that stage. He pigeonholed himself in there. He shouldn't have done it. If he hadn't done that, he could have had Gretchen Whitmer, which is who he originally wanted, and Jill wanted, and they were told they couldn't have her because they needed to have a minority on the ticket. If he had done that, he could have stepped down, had Gretchen Whitmer become president, the presidential nominee, and she would have Gavin Newsom as her VP, and they could have had a whole future for their party. But they didn't, and now they're in this position.
Well, that's a great point, because think of where we would be tonight if Gretchen Whitmer was number 2 and not Kamala Harris. I think that the prospects of him stepping down would explode to do what you just described, and that's a great point, kid. Boy, you're making some good points tonight. You really are. You always do. Let me ask you this: from your age group, you're not as old. Your hair is not as gray as the host, and I could be your grandfather. No, I wouldn't be. No, thank God I can't be your grandfather. I'm old enough to be your daddy. But let me ask you this: Magdalene Rose's age group. What do you think? How did this play with the young people last night? I know how it's played with you because you got a brain and you think straight and you're conservative and you got your head on your shoulder. But out there in that world of the college world where kids don't think straight and the liberal mindset of the youth, where does this fall in their house tonight? What do you think the kids are thinking?
I think they're thinking this is ridiculous. This man is not capable. And it's sort of like a resigned fact. A lot of people have been upset at young people from saying this, like we need new people in politics. But we really need new people in politics. And it's not just Joe Biden, it's others, it's Donald Trump eventually, it's other older people within the Republican Party. But young people look at this and go, well, of course he has no idea where he is. We knew that. And this was something Republicans didn't want to admit to themselves. In 2020, we lost the youth vote spectacularly. But we lost it mainly because young people didn't care that Biden didn't know where he was. They just wanted Trump out. So that position isn't new. Young people have accepted that he has no idea where he is, that he has no way to even recoup what he's lost mentally. And it's only now that they're realizing the danger of it, but it isn't new information.
Do you think that even the student loan forgiveness, which is going up in the courts right now, I mean, the courts are stopping it from doing it, do you think all of these gestures that he's done to win the youth vote are going to make any difference? Do you think that they're fleeing him? Because I'm hearing from pollsters that there is a departure from the Democratic Party, and I'm not saying that Trump's going to get all those votes, but Magdalene, every vote counts right now because look, these margins in 2020 were razor thin, and I think every vote has got to count. And even if Biden loses 5 to 10% of the youth vote, that's a lot. And do you see that happening?
I think he could lose 5% of it because he's done nothing that he promised. And you mentioned these overtures about student loan. He has been trying, but the U.S. Supreme Court has just struck him down time after time. And I'm sure that Clarence Thomas takes some pride in that, because he's been the one who's been the architect of Biden's destruction every time that administration goes to the Supreme Court with anything.
That's true.
I mean, cases aren't heard. They're struck down quickly. And you cannot tell me that Clarence Thomas is not exercising his well-earned influence over the other younger Supreme Court justices.
Without a doubt.
Of course he is. And now you have a situation where the Supreme Court, it's not that we have a conservative majority, it's the type of conservative majority. We have a conservative majority that is learning at the feet of the master of this whole thing, which is Clarence Thomas. And also, Brett Kavanaugh hates Kamala Harris.
Yes.
So they recreated it. So if you go to the Supreme Court for the Biden-Harris administration, you're dealing with Clarence Thomas, who hates Biden, and Brett Kavanaugh, who hates Kamala Harris, and Amy Coney Barrett, who the entire Democrat Party tried to make into some cult member. Why do we expect them to win anything?
That's very true. You know, that can, and for people that don't understand what you just said, let me put that in perspective. It was Joe Biden during Clarence Thomas's nomination hearings that had basically said some ugly things, and basically he was the one that Clarence Thomas made the famous line to, "This has been a public lynching," and Joe Biden stood there stone-faced, and this has been 40 years ago, and what goes around comes around. And with Kamala Harris, she was the lynch mob, and she was the one leading this lynch mob against Kavanaugh during the liar, basically Ford's bullshit that she was pushing about some freaking thing that happened way back in the high school days. It was ridiculous, and there's never been any proof of it, and I'll call her out tonight as a liar. She's nothing but a liar. Kavanaugh's family was hurt over it. Kavanaugh's reputation. He still got nominated. They didn't succeed. But payback is a you-know-what, kid. And I think you are on to something right there. I'm thinking you're right. They take some great glee in saying, you know, what goes around comes around, right?
Yes, definitely. And it's really frustrating because I'm sure that Republicans wish they could go even harder on Biden on a legal level. But I think the word has sort of been from the Trump campaign, just keep it status quo, let Biden continue to fail. That's what we want to see. And that's why when Marjorie Taylor Greene was trying to get rid of Speaker Johnson, Trump did not support her on it.
I know.
He was upset about it. He didn't want it to happen. He likes Johnson. Johnson is no problem for Trump. There's no betraying going on there. So Trump wants status quo, you keep it status quo, especially if you owe your entire political career to him like she does.
Great analysis, kid. That's very great. Listen, a couple of other quick things. This SCOTUS ruling today that has been under the radar, but we're going to try to get some legal folks on next week to talk about it, at least the days we're on. It was an earthquake tonight because basically this Enron law that Jack Smith and the Dems have used to prosecute Trump and the J6ers. The Supreme Court basically came out tonight, Mahgdalen, and said that you cannot use that in an obstruction of justice case. It cannot apply. The same standard cannot be applied. And I was listening to Andrew McCartney this morning, and he basically said that, you know, it's going to put all these J6 cases in jeopardy, and many of these people are going to be released probably sooner than later. And that's when the lawsuits are going to start. If I was these J6ers, I'd sue the living you-know-what out of all these prosecutors and the Department of Justice I could for doing this to me. But what is your thoughts on that? I mean, do you see them being vindicated through this? What's your thoughts?
I think there's definitely a possibility for that. And a lot of that depends on how much the Republican Party wants to support them on it. Because the whole system, the whole issue with that has been, Republican Party has been trying to distance itself from this whole process. And they can't really do that anymore. And you saw last night Trump be asked about January 6th and everything, and Rachel Maddow tried to spin that he wouldn't disavow political violence. It was all nonsense. But it's still there. It's still a problem. So the more the Republican Party is active in just trying to solve these issues, the better off we are down ballot and for Trump.
Yeah, I think so. Rachel Maddow couldn't disavow a cheeseburger out of a drive-thru, so that tells you what I think about Rachel Maddow. Anyway, interesting stuff there, kid. Listen, I'm going to take a few minutes. What's been going on with you? I mean, what's your thoughts on the nation? Or how do you see this playing out in November? I mean, do you think this again changed the needle any last night? Do you think it's going to we're still on a path for a war? I mean, what do you see happening come November?
Yeah, well, I remember back in 2016, I had a teacher who taught an economics entrepreneurship class, and he had said that he sort of just suffered through it and voted for who he had to vote because the other person was just incompetent. And in that case, he actually meant he voted for Hillary Clinton because he thought Trump was incompetent. But that sort of sentiment I always remembered throughout this time in politics. And I think that's the sentiment a lot of people are going to have, that they're going to vote for Trump because the other guy's incompetent, because he can't do it. And that is a really powerful thing, because when that happens, it's not about personality, it's not about anything. It's about the fact that this guy can't do the job. And we've never had Trump be on the other side of that before. So it's a good thing for Donald Trump. And overall, after this debate, I have more confidence in Trump winning. I never had any confidence before in like the whole political process. And the thing that I think will also be a big factor is the amount of turnout. With this sentiment of people thinking, well, I have to just vote for not even the lesser of two evils, the more competent person, you'll probably have low turnout in certain areas. And in other areas, you'll have a spike. So we see like the African-American community seems to be more politically engaged this time. You and I are both not people who think that Trump's going to win 30% of the black vote, but he could win 5% more, 10% more. So you'll have higher turnout there. The sort of dark horse here, though, is whether or not white women, suburban women, are willing to go back and vote Republican, because that is the area of the coalition that's been in trouble. I hope as we get closer to the election, Trump sort of swallows his pride and invites someone like Nikki Haley to go campaign in those areas with suburban white women, because if she says no, she looks like a jerk, and she looks like someone who doesn't want to stop all the bad things that Biden is doing. So overall, I think Trump at this point is the favorite to win. His vice president choice is very important. I hope it is Tim Scott or Marco Rubio, someone that the rhinos can identify with, because he needs to focus on rebuilding his coalition, and those two do it. If you're going to vote for J.D. Vance, you're already going to vote for Donald Trump. He doesn't need that.
You know, that's a great point. And again, kid, you are hitting a grand slam tonight. I'm going to have to up my allowance to you this week. I mean, my goodness, I'll have to check in the mail. And but anyway, this is some good stuff, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was my next question. That's where I was going with my next question about the VP. So what you're saying is that I know that you probably caused earthquakes out there in the world of the mega movement tonight, that actually putting a rhino is a good thing, because it will consolidate the base and bring in these sort of fence sitters on the Republican Party. Because like you said, if he picks Vance, the people that would like J.D. Vance were already going to vote for Trump anyway. That's a good point. And you want to elaborate on that more?
Yeah, definitely. J.D. Vance is a great senator. He's very competent. Young Republicans I know love him. He seems to have a great family. But if you're voting for him, you're already voting for Donald Trump. You don't need to convince a J.D. Vance voter in Ohio to vote for Donald Trump. And Trump will also carry Ohio. That's clear. He's won it both times. Democrats are not investing heavily in winning it. The amount of manufacturing there puts it in Trump's camp. So he doesn't deliver anything. And I'd like to see J.D. Vance really excel in the Senate as well. I think he's somebody who has just enough informalness to be sort of cool and someone people want to engage with. But what Trump needs is he needs to rebuild the Republican coalition. And one thing that Reince Priebus and Scott Walker did in 2016 that was extraordinarily beneficial and that we could learn from is that they said, what does Trump need with a VP? What does he need even if he doesn't realize it? And they said he needs to put people's minds at ease within the Republican Party who are more traditional or more rhino-esque, or not even rhinos. They're just sort of Republican gentlemen and gentlewomen. And they said, well, Mike Pence can do that. They selected him because it fit in the coalition. So that's what we need to do at this point. Someone like Tim Scott. Tim Scott's getting married now to a woman who's completely age appropriate. It's a good package Tim Scott has created for himself. His mother is very involved in his politics. He has a family unit in that way. He can deliver those people who are Republicans, who are on the fence, who maybe don't vote for Biden but don't show up to all of the elections anymore. He can do that. Someone like Marco Rubio could as well. He might have some residency issues, but Trump could just move states if he needs to. So those two people are good options. I hope he picks one of them, and I hope that if he doesn't pick them, does not go crazy and pick like Vivek, because Vivek gives nothing to the ticket.
No, he doesn't. I got to ask this question. You mentioned Nikki Haley. Would Nikki Haley fill that bill?
I think that she could fill that bill, but the problem is she has cast herself in this like weird position of somehow she's everyone's victim, and somehow that she's been horribly abused by the Republican Party. No one was given more as a new Republican political official than Nikki Haley. No one. State of the Union address responses, highlighted at every convention. Mitt Romney was going to tap her for everything to put into his cabinet. It's ridiculous. So she could be, but I don't think she's loyal enough to just being quiet to get Trump elected. If she's on the campaign trail with Trump and someone says something to her like, what do you think about Trump's statement about this? She's not 100% just going to be quiet or protect Trump in the way that Tim Scott, it seems, is very, very much willing to in the last couple months.
Do you think, and let's just throw Tim Scott out, does he become Mike Pence, though, if things go south? Does he have Trump's back? Because what I've heard from people close to him, what he's looking for, and you've talked about this, and we've talked about it together. I've talked about it with other people. He is very much a stickler on loyalty. And when people betray him, it's like a death sentence. I mean, he basically cuts them off for good. It's rare that he goes back when that bridge is burned like that. And do you think that he is looking at this from a trust standpoint or from the coalition standpoint? What's more important to him, the coalition or the trust?
Yeah. Well, at this point, coalition, because he can figure out trust once he's elected. But if he doesn't fix the coalition, he won't have any time to test out loyalty because he won't be president. So he's going to need coalition. I think it's Tim Scott. I'd be happy with that. I think also the thing about Tim Scott that's good is Tim is a high-level, high-energy campaigner, and he needs that. He's got these court cases. He's got all these problems. Tim Scott can do a full day of campaign stop, sleep for 3 hours, and do another one. That's what's necessary right now because Trump's schedule is under siege by the Democrat legal machine. He needs that. I think Tim knows that, and that's why perhaps he's gone ahead and gotten engaged, and him and his fiance were featured in some Fox and Friends or Fox News segments about their relationship and everything. She's a very religious woman. This is the kind of setup he needs. Trump can worry about loyalty after he gets elected, and I don't think Tim Scott wants to do anything that would jeopardize his political career.
All right. I'm with you 1,000%, everything you just said. Now, do you think, too, does Trump pick now for 28, in other words, this guy, whoever this is, whoever this may be, are these folks going to be in line for the 28 ticket? And again, I'm watching the chat already go up and smoke about Nikki Haley. Folks, we're not saying Nikki Haley is going to be the best choice. What we're asking, and I agree with Mahgdalen 1,000,000%, what she's saying tonight, and there are some of us out here that if Jesus Christ was on Trump's vice president ticket, they'd find fault with him. And that's just the way it is. Nobody's going to be perfect. Everybody's going to have an issue with somebody. Ben Carson. And see, I love Ben Carson. I think Ben Carson's a fine man and everything. But again, Ben's not going to do anything to solidify what you just described. But my question to you goes beyond 24 because, look, we got a lame duck president. No matter who gets elected in November, we got a lame duck. And we will have a clean slate come 28. My question to you is, does he pick the VP that he feels is going to carry on his legacy after 24? Or does he just say, I'm done. Y'all work it out in the Republican Party. I love you guys. And I'll walk away. Because he's going to be 80 years old, Mahgdalen, when he gets out of office. And, I mean, look, if I was Trump, after what I've done for the country for 8 years, I mean, I know he's not that kind of person. But I'm wondering if he's thinking of 28 in this VP pick.
Yeah, he might be, but I can tell you young conservatives aren't going to let it happen. Because we have all sort of agreed, I think, that Trump is the best shot to beat Biden. Post-Trump being eligible to be president anymore is a very different game. There are a lot of young conservatives who have been exhausted by the MAGA-ness and everything, and they want even harder right policies than Trump will enact. So I think if you look at 2028, you're going to see more of a discussion around DeSantis and Josh Haley, the Senator J.D. Vance, these types of people who push hard-level right-wing social policies. That is where young conservatives are going. So Trump might think that he has a big amount of influence in that, and he might have an influence in the primary. But nobody who he picks, unless he picks like DeSantis, I think is really in the mix to be president in 2028, because young conservatives want a hard right guy, and they don't want somebody who was invented by Trump. They want somebody who has their own like position and zhuzh and everything. They want somebody individual, and they want to close the chapter on Trump after this.
Kid, you are so, I tell you, this is why I love Magdalene Rose, and this is why you're my goddaughter, and I'm so proud of you. I think this is some of the best analysis of this debate. I'll be honest with you. You should be on Fox. I can tell you something. Those talking heads over there don't know what the blank they're talking about. I listened to Magdalene Rose tonight. You make more sense than all of them, kid, to be frank with you. And I think this thing with the VP is very, we need to be heeding that. I will tell you this. I do agree with the fact that if he does think about what he's got. Now, I got to ask this question because, I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate with this. Does it anger his mega base if he picks the rhino to the point the mega base says, well, I'm not going to go vote? Because we got petulant children sometimes in the country that act like fifth grade playgrounds, throwing sand to each other instead of adults, and growing up and sucking it up, and instead of acting like a petulant child, do stupid stuff just like that. And that's why Republicans lose elections and Democrats don't, because the Democrats don't do that. They're doing it trying to trash Biden. But for the most part, I didn't hear anything in those voters tonight that said they were not going to vote for Biden. They just said he sucked last night in the debate, and they're worried that he's not going to make it till September. And they're worried that they were shocked he was able to stand up for 90 minutes. But we're going to vote for him. We're going to vote. That's Democrats, Magdalene. We Republicans, I swear, if somebody wears a shirt we don't like, we're not going to vote for him. I've never seen anything like it. Does it keep his mega base happy if he goes rhino route? And if he does that, I think it's genius, because you said it. It's going to not only solidify the mega base, but he's going to get the freaking... He's not going to get every never Trumper, but he's going to bring back a lot of people. I'm not sure about the women right now. I think the jury's out on that. But am I accurately expressing that?
I think you are. I think what's important to understand with that is the MAGA people, as long as it's Donald Trump, will vote for Donald Trump. And Trump knows that. So as long as it's Donald Trump, and as long as the vice president on the campaign trail, nominee rather, doesn't say anything derogatory, I think that they're safe. The MAGA people, at the end of the day, it's Trump that they want. The rest of it is sort of like they'll work it out post-election. As long as Donald Trump stays with them and is loyal to them, they'll be loyal to him.
Okay, fair enough. And I think that's very, very astute. And one person says, I hope he don't pick any rhinos because he had such problems with enough of those in his last administration. Well, the thing is, it ain't going to matter because this is his last administration. I mean, and folks, let me tell you this. Would you rather have a rhino as a vice president or have Joe Biden for 4 more years? That's a simple question. I'm just asking a simple question for a friend. What do we want? We want to split hairs over a vice president who probably will have some influence, but this is Trump's last hurrah no matter what. Would we rather have Joe Biden or have somebody that we may not be the happiest with, the VP? I'll take the second choice myself. How about you, Magdalene Rose?
I'll take Trump over this any day, because a vice president, much like a first lady, should not have that much influence.
Bingo.
We've gotten into this really weird place where they do. A first lady is supposed to look really good and be respectful and plan state dinners and be helpful. She's not supposed to be running the country. And that's not anti-feminist to say, that's not anti-woman to say. It's not the job. And this is why someone like Hillary Clinton is in a constant state of problems. But someone like Laura Bush was not, because Laura knew what her job was. And that's why she always had high approval ratings. It's not hard to understand how to become a well-approved first lady. Don't be annoying. Don't be the thing people see every day. Be respectful and be somebody who takes up a basic cause like literacy or animal rights that gets something concrete done that you can mention. That's all it takes. And unfortunately, at this point, Jill Biden is running the country. So I will take Melania Trump's sort of apathetic way of being over Jill Biden any day.
I'm with you, kid. And, you know, look, and I'm sort of getting the sentiment out here that people think that it has to be either or, that he's, you know, he needs to go full-blown J.D. Vance types. And but again, I want to caution, because I sense it. I saw it in the right-wing media today. I saw it on Fox this morning. I've watched Twitter a little bit today. I've watched some of these rooms, and there's arrogance on the right tonight. We think we're beating our chest. We're beating our chest in victory, thinking Trump's going to walk over Biden in November. And I'm telling people tonight, they're not going to like it, and some folks are going to get mad at me for saying it. We better rein in the arrogance, and we better rein in the pride, because this thing, we don't vote in June. We're voting in November. And if you don't think this left-wing side of the country has got to pull some crap like we've never seen them pull, you're a fool for thinking that. And I think Trump had better worry about getting every single vote he can, Magdalene. I like your analysis. And I don't want, look, I'm not a fan of the rhinos. I think that Tim Scott, I'll put it like this. If I had a gun to my head tonight and somebody said, you got to pick either Tim Scott or Marco Rubio, I would probably go with Tim Scott. He will help with the black community. I think he will help with a great deal with that. Ben Carson fits the bill for a lot of things, but I do not believe he fits the bill for a good vice president. That is my opinion. And I know that's not the common wisdom out there in La La Land out there tonight, and that's fine. I like Ben. This is not a personal thing about Ben. This is, again, we got to think strategically. Trump was strategic last night. There was a lot of things he didn't say I wished he would have said, Magdalene. There was a lot of bone. There was a lot of meat that he left on the bone. There was a lot of times he could have just slammed Joe Biden to the ground. There were some times that he could have taken his fist and boom, politically, just punched Joe Biden right in the face. And he instead diverted to policy. He stayed on policy. And some of the right-wing websites this morning even were complaining that Trump wasn't tough enough. And I'm thinking, my God, folks, he just wiped the floor with the President of the United States on the national stage last night, and we're still not happy. And this is what about politics that people I don't think get. This is a nasty, nasty, nasty business. And you got to be smart. We may not get everything we want on the right. We may not get the VP we want. We still got to fight. And we got to still support Trump. And we still got to go out there and vote. And we don't need to act like petty. You suck our thumb. I don't like his VP. I don't like his VP. So I'm not going to go vote. And we got a rhino. Well, who are you going to pick? And as I said, some people, it wouldn't matter if Jesus himself was on that ticket. They'd find problems. They'd find problem with it. So that's just McDonald's take. Hey, kid, appreciate you coming on a Friday night. I know it's late. And look, you have been an absolute jewel. And I've got to do a few news headlines here and make some of these folks laugh that are mad at me now. So I'm going to say goodnight to you. Listen, final thoughts, wrap us up. What's your final thought? Hey, we're going to have you on a lot in the summer going into the election. Yes. You're going to be with me election night. So get the coffee. Get the Wheaties. You need to come to Tennessee. And we need to set up a booth and do this in person side by side. And that'd be a bomb. That'd be a great thing that we could watch the election results and all. But listen, I love you. Final thoughts, kiddo. I'm proud of you tonight. You did great. This has been really good. I'm proud. You did excellent analysis tonight. I'm proud of you. Final thought, kid.
Thank you. Well, I think the main thing is Trump's got to pick his VP soon. This game we're playing where, like, it's okay that he hasn't, it's got to stop. We've got the convention in July. He's got sentencing in July, the ridiculous court cases in New York. He's got to pick a vice president. It should be Tim Scott. He should announce it now. Tim Scott should go across this country with a megaphone. And one thing that's great about Tim Scott is he has his mother, who is such a great campaigner, and she's such a stately woman. She has really helped him and provided him with the greatest support in politics, like my mom has. So it really would help him as well to have him on the ticket with her. Not in the ticket in the same sense, but on the campaign trail. That kind of combination would be great, and I hope Trump pulls the trigger on it.
I'm with you, kid, and somebody's saying thank you. You should come back. She's my goddaughter. She's on here every time she wants to. All she got to do is pick up the phone and say, I want to come on. She's got an open door. She's back all the time, and she's going to be our co-host on election night this year. Kid, listen, I appreciate you, and I'll see you soon. And I will be saying a prayer for you and your family. We love you. You're like family to me, and I mean that. I'm not just saying that to embarrass you, but I really mean that. I'm proud of you. I'm grateful the Lord brought our paths together about 4 or 5 years ago, and you've been a jewel, and you've been great tonight. I want to tell you, I'm really proud of you. It's been good.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Magdalene. Have a good weekend, dear. Happy 4th of July, too. God bless, friend.
I will.
All right,
You
sweet.
too.
Good
Bye.
night. Magdalene Rose, everybody. Put some fire in that house for that kid. Oh, I wished I'd have been that smart when I was young. I wish I was that smart now. And folks, but I know I can almost feel it in my bones. There's some folks saying, I just don't agree with that. I don't agree with her. Well, you ain't got to agree with her. That's all right. I do. I agree with everything she said tonight, and I see her point. It may not be the best thing to put a rhino on the ticket. I don't know. But sure as hell going to be better than anything we got on the Dem side. So, the way I look at it, again, it's it's our choice, folks. It's our choice. You want to keep going like we're going, then, whatever. And I know that, I don't know what the common thinking is out there tonight. I know that Ben Carson's name is being tossed, and I saw Corey say something that Cleo said it. She said that all of them were there last night at the debate, because he had sort of given a hint. He said, my vice president candidate will be at the debate tomorrow night, and I understand they all were there, but he didn't announce it. So we're still going to be in limbo for a while. And folks, listen, we can all disagree on who we want, and that's fine. That's what makes this world go round. But I do see her point. I do see your point because the Republican establishment right now, I don't think they're on board with Trump. They hate him. And it's not that he's ever going to get all of them anyway. I mean, these never Trumpers, it wouldn't matter what Trump does. They're going to hate him. There's people out there tonight that no matter what they saw on that screen last night, they're not going to vote for him. They just ain't. And there's some Christians that are not going to vote for him. I know a few, and they've told me that. It don't matter. It don't matter how bad the country is, that they hate Trump's guts. They think he is the Antichrist. They think he is evil and wicked, and you just don't know everything about Donald Trump. And then you've got a baby killer in the White House. I saw a headline, one of the voters' comments tonight. He said the country lost last night, and I disagreed with him. He was a Biden supporter. No, the country didn't lose last night. The baby killer's side lost. The corruption along the border and the lawlessness lost last night. The transgender dominionism, that's the word Bill Federer used to me today. Man, I can't wait for you. Oh, we had a good interview with him today. I can't wait to play that interview next week. Oh, my goodness. You are going to love Bill Federer. He was on his game today. He was in a hurry at the end, so I had to squeeze 2 hours worth of talk into about 45 minutes. But I tell you what, you're going to love this interview. But he used that term today, transdominionism, that is tearing this country down. That lost last night. Lawlessness lost that night. A weaponized Justice Department lost today. But the ball was rolling last night with Donald Trump. Now, it's 10:09. We've been going 51 minutes. I'm going to just do a few headlines because I do have a few stories, but I'm going to interact with you and take your comments. You're not going to offend me if you don't agree with her assessment of the rhinos. Don't be rude to my goddaughter, though. But you can pick who you want to for vice president. But ultimately, folks, you know something? It ain't our choice. It's going to be Trump's choice. And whoever he picks, I'm going to be right there voting for him. I'm going to be pulling that lever. There's just something in my spirit that I believe Tim Scott's the guy. I told Ricky this Monday night, Trump's got a habit sometimes of letting you think he's going to do one thing and then just blowing our minds. And I'm not so sure that there's somebody that's not on that list that he's actually chosen. That may be so. I wish Sarah Huckabee Sanders had been more ready for this moment. I think she would have made a great VP. And I would have been right there fired up for her in 28 as well. She's done a wonderful job in my neighboring state of Arkansas. And I think she would do an excellent job. I know there's a lot of things that people don't like about her. I don't have any issue with Sarah Huckabee Sanders. a little wet behind the ears politically, but, you know, there ain't going to be many that ain't. But my point to us tonight, folks, as an audience, is that we have got to stop killing ourselves over little nitpicking things and straining at gnats to literally swallow camels and straining at gnats to destroy a country because we have a little issue here or there. And I have seen this firsthand in 7 years on this network, and it drives me to drink the attitude of people over things they get upset about compared to the bigger issues that really are threatening the country. I'm telling you, it is insane. And the left, for some reason, they're upset tonight. And they're trying to get, this is sort of my commentary about the whole thing tonight, and then we can get to the headlines. I'm going to take your comments. We're witnessing the meltdown of the Democratic Party. They took a hit today. It's not just last night, but they took a hit today in the Supreme Court. There were 2 or 3 rulings today. One of the rulings about the Chevron case, basically the Supreme Court took the teeth out of the governing powers of these bureaucratic offices in D.C. and the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, and other agencies. They had their power stripped of them today, basically, and the federal government lost a lot of power in the Supreme Court today. I'm telling you, this was massive, and we're going to get probably Professor Nick Giordano. He would probably be a good one to talk to about this. He's been real busy, and we're trying to get him back on. But Judge Allen probably could give us insight to that. But that's a legal matter. But I'm going to tell you this. These cases today, and this J6 case, sent a shockwave through D.C. I talked to Brad Johnson a little bit this afternoon, and D.C. is shaking tonight. But I also listened to the voters today. And I watched the rooms, and I watched the sort of feel out there. And no matter how bad it was last night for Joe Biden and the Dems are going to vote for Joe Biden. They're going to vote for Joe Biden. And I wish I could say the same thing about our side and Trump, but I can't. I wish I could. But some tend to want to act like a bunch of petulant 5th graders that don't get their way on the playground. They take their toys and go home. And it's sad. It's just sad. All righty. Let me talk to you about a few headlines tonight. The first one is not going to be a pleasant one, but it's sort of sums up the situation that's going on in our world tonight with the jihadism. And in France, there were parents of a gang-raped 12-year-old Jewish girl that said the attackers mimicked Hamas. I've got to say something about this tonight. And I know that this is going to be sort of out there. Whoops, wrong one. I always go to the wrong screen. I'm going to say something, and I want you to hear me out before you flip off that channel and tune me out, but I want you to hear me good. One of the most brutal elements of that terrorist attack in October was the rape that was involved by those Hamas terrorists to teenagers, children, women, and I read some stories that even men were sodomized by these terrorists. That's how bad it got. That's how ugly it got. That's how demonic it got. That's how much evil was spread against Israel. President Trump called Biden out last night. He told Joe, he said, you need to leave Israel alone. Let her finish the job. Keep your mouth, keep your hands off of that state, and let her do her job. And that's exactly the opposite of what Joe Biden has done since October of last year. There's no moral clarity in this country as to who the evil perpetrators are. You've got people in this country screaming up and down that Israel, not Hamas, is the evil one in this ordeal. That she's slaughtering innocent civilians in Gaza. She's slaughtering the people in Palestine. It's an apartheid state. All these anti-Semites, Peters and all this bunch, and these cowardly prophets and these cowardly teachers and evangelists and preachers that don't have the gall and don't have the spiritual gumption of an ant to get out and at least condemn the terrorism. They don't even have the courage to do that. It hit me today. It hit me today when I was thinking about our headlines last night. What has been the element? Hear me out. And folks, let me just listen to me right now. I'm going to give you a chance to talk in a minute. You listen to me right now. Just listen. What has been the element lately that we have seen in this nation, in the crimes that have been committed by illegal aliens against teenagers in this country? What's been a common denominator in most of these killings? Rape. Rape. And I'm not making light of this tonight, folks. There's a spiritual principle tonight, folks. As you have done to Israel, so shall it be done to you. Now, I know people ain't going to like me drawing that moral comparison, and I'll probably wind up on Right Wing Watch tomorrow for doing it, and that's all right. I hadn't been on Right Wing Watch in so long. I've missed my trashing, even though, there's plenty of others that do it, but I've sort of missed the Right Wing Watch bunch. So I'll get my Right Wing Watch piece of flesh this weekend, I'm sure, for saying this. But I'm going to tell you something. There's a spiritual principle, what I'm trying to get across to you. Something we need to think about. We are having done to us and our citizens the same thing that Israel had done to its citizens in October. And because we've not supported her fight against the evil barbarians that have done that, that same judgment is coming back on this country. Now, that is a perspective that's not going to be shared by many. It may not even be shared by anybody, and that's all right. But there's a principle in the spirit realm. You reap what you sow. And as you've done to Israel, he told Israel that in Obadiah. He told Edom in Obadiah, as you have done to Israel, as they've done to you, it's going to be done to them. And this is why this election matters. And that situation last night, I wish Trump, the only thing I had against him on that debate last night, and it really wasn't major, but I wish he would address the Palestinian state issue. You do not want to encompass these people in a state. You do not want to you don't want to give these people a state, folks, because once you give them a state, they have a border, they have a governing body, and any act of Israel to go in and fight this terrorism now becomes an issue between nations, not between people groups. Between a nation and a terrorist in their backyard. That's why it's dangerous. And there's historical reasons for it not happening too. There's Bible reasons for it. There's prophetic reasons. But I want you to just chew on that this weekend, what I just said to you. Just chew on it. You ain't got to accept it. This 12-year-old that was gang raped by these attackers, she said that they mimicked Hamas. That's in France. It's not Hamas doing it here. It's the strangers among us that have risen up and now taken over the country. Think about that. And I don't say that lightly tonight. I don't say it lightly. I don't. But that headline caught my attention today, and boom. Here's another one, by the way. A couple of headlines. I'm not going to be able to read the stories. I don't have time tonight. Hollywood celebrities rage at CNN as Biden struggles during debate. What is wrong with these two moderators? Don't you love Hollywood? That's John Cryer and Barbara Streisand. They didn't get mad at Biden about this. They were blaming CNN. They were blaming CNN. And by the way, this idea that he had a cold, achoo. You gotta love the media, man. That's what they're blaming it on. He had a cold. That's what the White House blamed it on last night. But Hollywood wasn't too happy. Not with the Biden situation. They wasn't happy with CNN. And they're imploding. There's Joe, Barbara, and John. By the way, Magdalene sort of touched on this. CNN slit its own throat last night during the Trump-Biden debate. And they did. The very rules that they thought was going to destroy Trump destroyed Biden. There's a spiritual principle in that. There's a spiritual principle in that. The trap you set for somebody else, the things you do to others, folks, it's coming back home to roost. It's coming back home to roost. You better sow kindness, and you better sow mercy, and you better sow grace, and you better sow love, because you're going to reap what you sow. You're just going to reap what you sow, and it was on display last night. It was on display last night. Go woke, go broke. My heart warmed at this story today. Nike shares crashed 19% as customers swoosh away. To competitors, there's loser Kaepernick. They plunged Friday afternoon that they released quarterly results that beat earning estimates but warned of weak sales amid soft consumer demand on the brand shoes in North America and China. Bye-bye, Nike. Supreme Court, we talked about this. I'll read you the story out of Breitbart quickly. Blows up DOJ's biggest charges against Donald Trump today. The Supreme Court ruled Friday that the government cannot prosecute J6 defendants under 1512C2, the Enron statute, for generally obstructing an official proceeding unless they interfered with objects or documents. The bombshell decision could result in hundreds of convictions against nonviolent J6 defendants being overturned, could result in at least some charges being dropped against President Trump as well. The 1512C2 was passed after the Enron scandal, when it was discovered that federal law had a loophole. It was illegal to instruct others to destroy evidence, but not illegal to destroy evidence oneself. Consequently, Congress pushed and passed a law prohibiting tampering with witness that is used in an official proceeding. The Department of Justice used that law to prosecute participants in the Capitol riot based on the idea that they had, quote, obstructed an official proceeding, the certification of the Electoral College vote in the 2020 presidential election. But critics said that law had never been intended to apply to protests. Well, today, the Supreme Court sided with the J6ers. And they basically sided, and let me just say something about that. Even Johnny, I don't know what a man or a woman is, I don't know the difference, was sided with the conservatives. That's how bad a day it gets, honey. When Johnny Brown sides against you, you screwed if you're a liberal. I'm just sorry. You had a bad year, a bad decade, a bad life. When Johnny Brown sides with the majority in this, and she was the only one that was a 7-2 decision, that's bad if you're liberal. It's a big story. We're going to follow this next week because it's going to have ramifications. It'll still be here next week to talk about. Now, I was going to do some funnies and do some things. I do want to show you a couple of Branco's works today. He's going to be with me Monday night, by the way. The one and only Tony Branco. We got Lori Mills late. We're going to have a double feature. This was sort of funny. He posted this just this afternoon. Here is the Dems' face last night. The face that Democrats make watching Biden's debate. And that's from a dear friend, Tony Branco. I'm sure he's going to have a lot to say. And here is another one. Illegal immigration under Trump and under Biden. A good analogy of that. I want to just say something, too, about the fact-checking. I can't do it tonight. We're running out of time tonight. But I wanted to go through these fact checks that Breitbart did. It's great. I do have a picture of them. I tell you what, I'll at least show you this because I basically summed them up in one picture. Hang on just a second. Let me see if I can find that picture. Here it is. I'll just read them to you. These are the things that Biden said last night. They basically summed it up in one section of their publication tonight. Number one, he said he was the only president this century that had no troop deaths. Number two, he repeated the Charlottesville Fine People hoax. Snopes, by the way, which is a liberal wing, it's a liberal rag, it actually admitted 7 years later, this year, that Trump never said that the KKK and the white supremacists were fine people. That was a lie perpetrated by the media. It got circulated. It got tossed on websites. People shared it out. And you repeat a lie enough, it becomes what people think. And he repeated it last night. Fact check, Biden claims that Trump wants to cut Social Security and Medicare. That's an old playbook out of the Democrat. They want to scare the elderly to think he's going to cut Medicare and Social Security. Trump's never said he would do that. Fact check, more COVID deaths under Joe Biden. Joe Biden claimed that Trump had more COVID deaths than him. And that's a complete lie. I don't know if y'all remember, I know most of you do, CNN had that little counter when the election was going on in 2020, and if somebody died, it would just keep ticking, and they made sure the country knew how many deaths of COVID was going on to basically lay it at Trump's door. Well, when Biden, what happened in 2020 happened, they took that counter off because they couldn't handle the fact that that ticker would have tripled under Joe Biden's regime. And he claimed last night it was just the opposite. No double jeopardy for you, Joe. Another fact check, Biden claimed that Trump did nothing when Iran-backed militia attacked troops in Iraq. By the way, there's a pile of ash on the Iranian airport still. If you go there and look, you probably can see some of the ash of Soleimani. Trump did do something. He basically turned Soleimani into a smoke and ash heap. But Joe Biden said he didn't do anything last night. Another lie that he told. By the way, another fact check, he falsely claimed, this was the big one, that the Border Patrol agents endorsed him. And while he was talking, the Border Patrol agents came out and said, we've never endorsed you, Joe, and we never will. So, that was that. All righty. Let me see here. Let me see if I got a couple of videos to play. I wish I had more time tonight, but it's late. Here is something funny. I think this has got sound to it. Let me see if I can turn. I'm going to turn the volume on. You may get a little feedback. But here is the what happened, what most people didn't see after the debate last night. Roll the tape. That's real-time video. That's not doctored. That's not doctored. That really happened last night. Jill went up to the stage and led her husband off. Folks, I got to say something. Listen, I mean this very seriously. It's not a laughing matter. I giggle when I saw stuff like that today, but I think about this more, and folks, listen. The fact of the matter is we're all headed to where Joe Biden's at tonight. I mean, we are. If you get old and you get to that point, and I wouldn't want people making fun of me if I had lost my cognitive abilities. The issue is leadership. The issue is the fact, in this state that he's in, he does not need to be leading the country. He just don't. We're not a third world dictatorship. We're not a third world country. We don't go and shoot our leaders. We don't go and storm the White House and yank them out in the streets and kill them like other countries do in these third world banana republics. We don't have riots. We don't go up there with torches and burn the White House down so we can change leaders. We vote because we're a civilized nation. We're a civilized society. At least I think we are sometimes. Sometimes I wonder about that. But as you go to vote in November, it is an issue. The left don't want it to be an issue. The left is trying its best to hide this issue. Somebody said something to me today that, and I've heard it from really more than one person, 2 or 3 people mentioned it, that the Dems have just acted shocked today. Shocked. What they witnessed last night with Joe Biden. And folks, let me tell you this. They knew it. They've known this all along. And this faux pas hypocrisy that they're just shocked that this man does not have the cognizance to run the country, that's what it is. It's hypocrisy. They chose him in 2020 to be their candidate. This is who they nominated, along with Kamala Harris. He picked Kamala to run with him. And she's more unpopular than he is. But on a personal note, we don't need to be making fun of him personally. We can address the fact he's not fit for office. But I caution you deeply tonight to be very careful how you make fun of this, because it's not funny. It's not funny. The Jill thing is funny, the way his wife handles him, and I'll be honest with you, to me, she's the blame for this, because the family has known that he's been in the state, and if they'd had any compassion, they would have told him not to run in 2020, but they didn't, because Jill wants power. Jill is Hillary Clinton on steroids. She may not be out there talking as much as Hillary does and running her pathetic trap as Hillary does, but Jill Biden is Hillary Clinton on steroids. And that's what happened last night. That was not doctored. That's not a parody video. That actually happened. But on a personal note, we need to pray for Joe Biden, folks. We need to pray for him. We do. And you say, well, I think it's funny. Well, you and I are going to be here one day, and it ain't going to be funny when it happens to us. It's always funny when it's happening to somebody else, but it's not funny when we're the ones facing this decline. I'm concerned for the man, but I'm concerned for our nation, because somebody with that cognitive issue does not need to be one step away with a finger on a button that could send the world into World War III and Armageddon. That's my issue. That's my issue. I pray for his soul. And I pray for Joe Biden tonight. I do. I almost feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for the country. I feel sorry. I feel sad. And I want to caution the right tonight, and I see it in the chat room a little bit tonight. I've seen it. This arrogance. This arrogance. Folks, let me tell you something. We don't vote in June. We don't vote in June. It's one debate. Trump has not won this election. Trump has not won this yet. And there are so many things that can happen between now and November. I could spend 3 hours on stuff that can go down between now and November. We need to be diligent. We need to act sober. We need to have a sound mind. And we need to do our part and pray. And pray. And pray. And not be arrogant. Pride cometh before a fall. Humility comes, and God gives grace to the humble. And he resists the proud. And I'm proud of President Trump for the way he behaved himself last night and carried himself. I thought it was a class act. And so forth. Alrighty. Now, I'll amen myself on that. I'll amen myself on that one. I will amen myself. If you got something to say, now's your time to say it. Speak now and forever hold your peace. Speak now and forever hold your peace. Let's see what we got going on tonight. We're going to take a few minutes. Got a question? Anything you want to say? Have at it. Have at it. Democrats watch CNN. That's why they're shocked to see the real Biden. Roger! Square on. Square on, brother. Square on. Elaine Willard says it's elder abuse. Elaine, it is. No, it is. It is elder abuse, folks. And I don't know. I mean, my God, his family would have to see it. I would pray, honest to God, folks, if Chris was at this stage of my life and I was in this state mentally, and I was trying to do something like this, run for office, I would pray that my family would come to me and say, you don't need to do this. They would intervene. But his family, Jill, don't care. Because to her, this is about power. This is about her thirst for power. And I think Mahgdalen was on to something tonight. She's the one running the country. We all think Obama's running the country. We all think Susan Rice is running the country. It hit me tonight with Mahgdalen. Jill Biden's running this country. Jill Biden's running this country. Wasn't Mahgdalen good? She was great, wasn't she? Denise says, thanks for discussing the VP candidates. I only have a few. Deborah says, Brother Chris, you spoke the truth tonight. We do need to pray for Joe's soul. We need to pray for his soul, but we need to pray for him too. Deborah, we need to pray for him. Folks, this is very serious. This is very serious. Carol Smith, I love what she just said. People need to vote on Trump's policies, not his personality. That's so true, Carol. That's so true. Folks, and I think that's what I was impressed with Trump about. And maybe this format of not having an audience, and I know some of you were mixed last night, but it did keep him disciplined. Because he didn't have any, because if there had been boos and hissing and applause and all this with this gotcha question and stuff, I'm not so sure he would have kept it in. I think he would have unloaded at some point. And I think that this was just a discussion between the two men, and Trump talked policy. He didn't make it personal. Joe Biden did. He called him a liar. I've never heard so much malarkey in my life. And he even said that today, called Trump a liar again. When Joe, I just read you 7 lies that he told last night. I I feel a pathos in my heart for Joe Biden tonight, folks. I feel sorry for him. I feel a deep sadness. And you know, I've told you this, and I got some blowback on it, and it wasn't nice from some folks. What would happen tonight, folks, if Joe Biden had a Damascus Road experience? What would happen if God appeared to Joe in a dream, or the Lord Jesus Christ came to him and confronted him tonight because of the prayers of the saints instead of the mockery of the saints? What would happen if we all got serious and saying, Lord, help Joe Biden, help him? I don't want to vote for him, folks. I'm not going to vote for him in a million years. I think his policies are awful. But what would happen if he got saved? Would we feel the same way about him tonight? Because I tell you what would happen if he got saved. He changed. The Democratic Party would try to get him off the ticket then. Now that would be the bomb. It wouldn't be the right that would be going after him. It would be the left. And that's what they're doing tonight. But I've told you my story about this, how the Lord convicted me of something. It's been about 2 years ago now. And it was a come to Jesus meeting in that car. I never will forget it. I don't want to go into it tonight. But I had a t-shirt that was popular a few years ago because of something that was said. And he thought they were saying, let's go Brandon. And they wasn't saying, let's go Brandon. The media claimed that. And I had that shirt. And I was at the counter getting ready to buy it because I was going to wear it on the show. And the Lord spoke to my heart just as clear as I'm talking to you. And he said, is wearing that shirt tonight going to glorify me on your network? And I just stopped. I froze. Boom. Froze. And I said, no, Lord, it ain't. He said, why don't you go put it back? And I did. And I walked out to the car. And I remember weeping. I got in my car and I started weeping like a baby. And the presence of God came in that car. And all he did, he said a simple statement to me. He said, if my people would spend as much time praying for the current president as they do mocking him and making fun of him and trashing him, I would change his heart. I would hear the prayers and I would move on his heart. Because, folks, the Proverbs and the Psalms, I think both have a verse that says, the heart of the king is in the hands of the Lord. The Lord has the king's heart in his hand. So that was Chris's Come to Jesus Minute, and I've been very careful not to make fun of his situation as it pertains to this. And I'm going to tell you something else. I know the sun is having a ton of problems tonight, and it's easy fodder, it's easy Twitter fodder, it's easy mockery, it's easy thing for us parents that have children tonight that are wayward. It's not so funny. It's not funny. Because that could be our son. That could be my son. And it would break my heart if he was in this state. And I'm saying this to you in love tonight. I'm saying this to you as some common sense McFile advice on a Friday night, folks. We need to take a look at our own hearts before we start judging others. And many don't. Anyway, all right. Anyway, I'll amen myself again. I'll amen myself again. Well, Denise, his wife may need to get saved, but Denise, there's a lot of other people that need to get saved too. And yes, the Lord would probably be it would help if he appeared to her too. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I've got a feeling that if God was to intervene with Joe, it would be the family. And I mean that tonight, folks. We need to be very careful. We need to be very careful of how we're acting. I see this arrogance. I've seen it today, and it bothers me. I know it's easy to gloat. I know we all witnessed what we witnessed last night, but I just feel the presence of God right now in this house saying these things to you. I think the Lord He's trying to get His people to start acting like Him, and not acting like the political pundits and the media and the X and the Telegram room and the Facebook flunkies out there that don't have a brain in their body and don't have no moral character in their body and no moral fiber, no clarity as to what's right and what's wrong. They just want to be seen and attention, and they want hits and likes. No, God don't care about hits and likes. He cares about our character. He cares about our heart. He cares about our heart. And this nation, folks, if the children of God would start acting like children of God, I think our nation would be different, but we don't. We act just like the world. We just act like them. And I'm not talking about acting like the world as going to movies and going to the honky-tonks and all that. I'm talking about character. I'm talking about the way we talk, the way we act, the way we pray, the way we see the world. We don't need to see the world as the world sees it. We need to see the world as heaven sees it. Corey Ten Boom posted something the other day. It was so beautiful. She says, some people believe that God only loves Christians. God does love Christians. And God, yes, is angry with the wicked every day. But for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. He holds his hands out tonight to this world, if this world would just but accept it. I know this world ain't, and for the most part, it will not. But God still holds his hands out and arms out to those that will. But a lot of the reason they won't is they see us acting like them. Whew. I'll amen myself. I'll amen myself. If you've enjoyed the video, thank you, Cleo. I appreciate you putting that in. Please like it. Please share it out. If you're not a subscriber, we need you to like it, and we need to share it. We need you to subscribe to the network. We're still maintaining a very decent audience every week, every night, and I'm really grateful. We had almost 500 live viewers last night. That was an incredible record. That's probably the best watch show last night, definitely in the last 5 months, 6 months, but of the year. And tonight we've not been too bad off. We still got about 300 live viewers on all the networks. So we're grateful that y'all are here tonight. Listen, it's 10:42. It's Friday. I've got a lot more I could say tonight, but I'm going to call it a night here. I think we've said enough. And I want to thank you all for being with me tonight. And I hope that you enjoyed the show. And Deplorable says, God loves all of his creation. Unfortunately, only a few accept him. Deplorable, that is absolutely correct. He loves men. He loves people. But not everybody loves him. Not everybody loves him. It's well said. That's well said. That's well said. Let's see here. It is elder abuse, folks. And hang on just a second. Let me see a few questions in Facebook. I was looking at YouTube mainly, but there was a couple of questions that came in. Lex says, could Mike Johnson become vice president if Biden gets removed soon? Well, Lex, they'd have to remove Kamala too. I mean, Kamala's the second in charge. That's the thing that we need to be careful about wishing for tonight, folks, too. Look, Kamala Harris, according to our Constitution, is the second in command. If Joe Biden steps down tomorrow night, Kamala Harris becomes president. And I don't know about y'all, I sure as hell don't want Kamala Harris my president. I don't care even if it's for 4 months. You think Joe B is bad, and Kamala has her faculties. Let me tell you something, all unmitigated hell would be released on this country. That's just an opinion. So Mike Johnson could, if something happened to Kamala, he would be third in line after the vice president. But and who would be vice president? She would appoint somebody. It wouldn't be Mike Johnson. It doesn't work. The succession doesn't automatically go to the third in line. It goes to her choice. The Dems she would pick a vice president. And my money, she'd probably go to Michelle Obama and put Michelle number 2. And God, that would be another nightmare. And there's even rumblings that Hillary's out there in the bullpen putting word out that she's ready to go just in case things go south. And don't laugh at that statement, because I don't have any doubt in my mind that she's sitting there salivating at that tonight, that thought. But that's how it works, Lex. That's how it works. It is scary. It is scary. Anyway, alrighty. I didn't want to leave without answering your question. Good to see you tonight, Lex. Appreciate you very much. God bless you, friend. All right, folks, listen, I love you. I hope you had a great week with me. Listen, we recorded an interview today. We got Atlas Linehan next week. We got Bill Federer. Now, I've got next week's the 4th of July. and I've got a procedure next Wednesday. We're going to be here full throttle Monday and Tuesday. I'm not sure what schedule we've got after that. But we'll be here this weekend, Saturday night. We're going to be here tomorrow night with the Gospel Sing on the Faith Network. If you're not visited with us there, please do. You're going to love this tomorrow night, Southern Gospel Favorites. If you've never listened to that, you'll enjoy this. It's nothing but music and some thoughts and some amens, and some hallelujahs, and let's do that again and all that. It's a camp meeting type service, a couple hours on faith. But then Sunday morning, Sunday night will be our Faith Network show. Monday night, we got a double feature. We've got Andy Branco, 8 o'clock. Lori Mills is going to be on late with me because she's got some thoughts about the legality of the J6 stuff. She's got some legal people that she's been talking to. Bill Federer and Alice Linehan. We're going to play one of those interviews Tuesday night. And then Wednesday night, I dare say, I'm not sure, I should be able to do the Wednesday night Bible study. But after that, we probably are going to take the rest of the week off. It depends on how the things go Wednesday morning. I do ask for your prayers. It's a personal procedure I don't want to get into, but just remember me in your prayers. And whatever we do next week, we'll be with you at least a couple of nights next week. And then into the following week, we're going to take some time off as well. But we may have some pre-recorded shows and so forth. But we just want you to know we love you. We appreciate you. We got to take a little time off right now because as we get closer to this election, all hands are on deck. All hands are going to be on deck. And we're going to have a lot of double features and a lot of news, late night news shows. And if something breaks and the world goes to pot and the world comes to end, you know I'll get myself on here to talk with you. But have you enjoyed the shows this week? If you have, put some fire in that house, and we thank you for being with us. Mark Kaysen, it is good to see you tonight. Thank you for being here, buddy. Good to see you tonight, my friend. And we will be back with Tony Branco here on the News Network and Lori Mills late. And then Alice Linehan or Bill Federer. That interview with Bill Federer today, I tell you what, I've known Bill for about 3 years now. It's one of the best. And he's got a brand new book called The Silence of Consent, The Sin of Omission. I'll tell you, he's going to talk about it. It's going to shake us. I was being convicted today by Bill Federer, and it was some stuff that he said. I mean, it's good stuff, and I can't wait to play that interview for you. And Brad Johnson will be back with me. We're going to try to get Nick Giordano. James Akers is in the bullpen. Mahgdalen will be back with me. And so we got a great July coming. We want to thank you all for your giving. We could sure use it at the end of the month. It's the end of the month, going into the first, and summertime swoon. People they don't give as much in the summer, and I understand that. And some of you have gone way over and above. And we thank you for your faithfulness, and we thank you for your donations, folks. This network survives on that strictly. That's why you don't see us pause and say, we'll be right back, and you have 10 minutes, you have 3 minutes of commercials, and we get back, and then we'll see you. We'll be right back, and we have 5 minutes of commercials. We don't have sponsors. We just don't. So please consider giving. And ZELLE, ChrisMac44 @gmail.com, PayPal.me/themcfiles, and Venmo, TheMcFilesChris. And P.O. Box 50942, Knoxville 37942. And we appreciate it. If you've enjoyed the content, say amen tonight. I will see you. Have a great weekend, everybody. I'll see you back here tomorrow night on the Faith Network and Sunday on the Faith. May the Lord bless you tonight. Good night, everybody. Prayers for the country. Prayers for America. Prayers for your family. God bless you. God bless this great nation of America. And God bless you tonight. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed, and I'll see you. Good night.